Hello, and welcome to JSTOR for Images and Other Primary Sources, our 2025 update. We are about to get started, but we know sometimes people need a second to get set up with GoToWebinar. This webinar is the fourth in a series of 5 JSTOR Updates webinars for 2025 covering a range of topics. This primary sources webinar is appropriate for librarians, researchers, and teaching faculty. We have created a handout for this webinar where you will find relevant resources, including links to sign up for the next webinar. We hope that you can use this handout to refer back to after the webinar as you walk yourself through the features and functionalities that we will share today. And now let's get started with some introductions.
Oh, I'm sorry. I should turn us to the next slide. Excuse me.
Whenever. All right, here's our team for today. My name is Kelsey Schaefer. I am a partner and user education lead. And our presenter today is Dana Howard, our senior education and outreach manager on the JSTOR partner and user education team. We also have some wonderful colleagues who are helping to answer your questions behind the scenes. Before I hand it off to Dana, I want to let you know that this presentation is being recorded. All attendees will receive the recording in a follow-up email, and we will post the webinar recording on YouTube and link to it in your webinar handout. And that handout is pinned in your webinar chat. If you are looking for the webinar chat, look in your upper right corner to move between webinar tabs. You might need to click the 3-line window to see all of your tabs. After you, and I'll put it in the chat again too. After you exit the webinar today, a short survey will appear on your screen. If you don't have time to answer the survey immediately, it'll also be emailed to you in about an hour. We really appreciate all feedback that you can share with us. So whether you respond to the survey immediately or later today, we hope that you can share ways that these webinars are useful to your work or ways that they could be more useful. Please let us know what topics you would like to see covered in more depth or any other thoughts you may have about our webinars. We read every comment and we use them to shape our future work. And now I will pass the microphone over to Dana.
Thanks, Kelsey. In this webinar, we'll focus on the tools in place on JSTOR to support the use of images and primary sources in both teaching and research. As always, we'll briefly go over how to access JSTOR and the value of your personal account. Our handout contains descriptions and links to a few new collections, as well as some that continue to grow on Artstor since it became part of JSTOR last year. In addition, as I demonstrate on the platform, I will point out some valuable open collections from Artstor and contributing institutions. We'll cover searching and refining image and primary source searches on JSTOR. One thing I am eager to point out is how the item page can be used to better understand context. Then we'll look at browsing items and collections. We'll cover the Workspace, a valuable tool for working with images and other primary sources. After that, we'll open things up for questions. Please keep in mind that you can enter questions during the presentation. We do have colleagues standing by, as Kelsey mentioned, and we'll be keeping track of them, and some of them will answer during the Q&A session right after the presentation. If you have specific questions about your own institution's JSTOR access or content, we recommend you contacting support@jstor.org directly. Now, JSTOR, a digital library, is part of Ithaca, a not-for-profit organization with a mission to help improve access to knowledge and education worldwide. Ithaca also includes S&R, our research partner to institutions of learning, Portico, deep storage, and now JSTOR Digital Stewardship Services to support the management and cataloging of collections. Our organizational mission is to improve access to knowledge and education for people around the world. So let's talk about what's on JSTOR in 2025. JSTOR was officially launched in 1995, so we are 30 this year. It began as a project with the Mellon Foundation to digitize and archive print journals. That's where the name comes from, JSTOR for journal storage. Now we have a range of content, including both scholarly and primary sources. Our primary sources come from collections contributed by archives, scholars, museums, and libraries worldwide. Some of our most notable image collections are bundled under Artstor. Artstor is a collection of collections, and it was founded in 2003 as a platform and image library for teaching and research. It is responsible for about 3.4 million of the over 5.2 million images on JSTOR. Now, with Artstor exclusively on JSTOR since August 2024, new collections are available for your exploration. For your convenience, we have added links to several collection pages of recently added content in your handout, including new content added to existing collections. For example, we're fortunate that Magnum Photo has been adding 5,000 new images per year. This is a very interesting and useful collection for teaching and research because Magnum and also Panos Pictures are responsible for the work of journalistic photographers worldwide. So we get current events and recent historical events from Magnum and Panos. Now let's go over the types of primary sources currently available on JSTOR. There are over 2,600 collections, all discoverable both by browsing the collections pages with a keyword search or searching with a keyword search. They're both multidisciplinary and discipline-specific, meaning some you will find very narrowly focused, while others will provide a broad range of material. These collections include select monographs, pamphlets, manuscripts, letters and postcards, oral histories, government documents, images, 3D models, spatial data, images of specimens, works of art and architecture. I think I said oral histories already once, but I'll say it again, and more provided by contributors worldwide. Each type of content will be returned if relevant to a general search on JSTOR. So relevant primary and secondary sources will both be returned in your search results. You can then explore by content type using the Refine Results sidebar, as I'll describe. Access to JSTOR through your personal account is the easiest way to use JSTOR. There are steps you need to take one time to make that personal account work for you. They include accessing JSTOR through your institution and then creating your personal account. After that, you're set to always log in with your personal account to get to the content your institution subscribes to on JSTOR. When you first go to jstor.org, check the top of the page and see if you are connected to your institution's JSTOR access by looking at that top center of the screen. In the top example, with the green box, you are automatically logged in or authenticated through that institution. In the bottom example, you're not. If that is the case, follow the link to find your institution and log in there. Then, the second thing you need to do this very first time is sign up for a personal account. Now, I will note that if you have an Artstor account, you can use that. After that, you're set to always log in with your personal account to get to the content your institution subscribes to on JSTOR. This is your account for life, and it is free. If you leave your institution, you can continue using JSTOR. Simply use the open and free content on JSTOR, or you can sign up for a JPass until you are again associated with an institution that has a fuller subscription portfolio. Either way, this is your account. Information about JPass is in your handout. If you change your email, contact support@jstor.org and we can update your email address for you so you never lose track of that personal account. Let me talk about some of the additional benefits of your personal account. I like to think of this personal account as your personal desk within Workspace, like a very nice library carrel. With the personal account, you have seamless remote access for 365 days across all of your devices. Each time you log in from on campus, that 365-day clock resets. You can pick up where you left off on a research project across devices from anywhere. With a personal account, your search history is visible to you with recommendations for further exploration. Although JSTOR's AI research tool and semantic search results are only used with secondary source text content, which is not the focus of this webinar, they are available to you with your personal account if enabled at your institution. For more on these tools, please see our Intro to Research on JSTOR webinar, which is linked in your handout. And finally, your personal account gives you access to your personal workspace, no matter what institutions you're associated with. The workspace is where you can store content you find on JSTOR for quick access to be able to share and download images and reading lists. We have two very recent benefits of having a personal account visible to you as soon as you begin a search. They are your recent search history and recommendations. These time savers are only possible for us to provide with the personal account. Okay, searching primary sources is a little bit different because they come from a wide range of contributors, which means that the metadata is quite variable. And at the same time, the material can include things like handwritten documents or images where metadata is limited. So we have some tips for searching primary sources. First thing, simplify your keyword searches. If in secondary sources you have a lot of keywords and a lot of ands, don't worry about that. With your primary sources, keep in mind that there is much less metadata available, so you may have to do several small keyword searches with just a few or a couple of words. I find that it is easier to digest when I've found content if I review my results by content type. I'll demonstrate that method. It can be very relaxing and easier if you can sort of have the expected content type in front of you. The collection and item is listed below the thumbnail for primary sources. That collection name is valuable for you because if something's in a collection and you find that one thing interesting, that whole collection should be interesting. I find that the best way for me to keep track of these great and interesting collections is to just save a representative item from that collection in a Workspace folder that I actually call interesting collections. Save promising content as you go. It's easier to remove an item from your Workspace than to retrace your steps. But if you have to retrace your steps, use that search history when you have to do that. Finally, the metadata of the content you discover across the board, primary or secondary sources, can help a lot in discovering new search strings. Okay, so now I've also got some specific tips for working with images on JSTOR. You can refine your results by resolution, how big the image is, date range, geography, or collection. You can use compare mode to begin to closely inspect a work of art or architecture as you begin the interrogation process. You can actually have up to 4 items on your screen at once in compare mode. Image metadata can help you dig deeper. Remember that you can use what you learn about an image to search for a secondary source or scholarly work, also available to you on JSTOR. You can create details of images to add to your Workspace folder, share, and download as needed. From your image search results, you can save multiple promising images in bulk to reorganize in your Workspace folder and you can investigate them further then while they're in your folder. Now let's turn to the Workspace. This, I think, is the most valuable of the JSTOR tools for working with primary sources. And the Workspace comes with your personal account. With the Workspace, it's a content access tool on JSTOR. You can put things you find in one place that you can return to again and again. It works beautifully with primary sources because the gallery view layout, it lays out the content for you of what's in your folder visually. You can create notes about individual items or write a description of the whole folder. Then you can share that folder with students or colleagues. And you can also download a presentation or a PDF of that folder. We have some tips for using the Workspace too. You can keep image presentation content in folders in your Workspace to add to over time. When I taught, I would often add a few new images to my existing slide deck to keep my presentations fresh. So what I would do is that folder, I would just tuck in those new images, and then I would download the folder, grab those images, and put them in my already established slide deck on my computer. Also note that subfolders can help you organize material for a course, so students only need one link for the entire course. When I would teach art history, I would often include much more than I would present in class. So I would create a kind of a visual reading list of folders for more examples of something we discussed in class. And since the textbooks only scratched the surface, that Artstor content really added a lot more depth to my students' understanding of what we were studying. I could also store text readings side by side with my images, which is convenient for them and for me. And I would create a test prep folder for students so that they could fully investigate and practice identifying a range of material before the exam. And you might think, well, that's a lot of searching. Well, it's not, because you just copy an existing folder and then add or delete content as needed. In your handout, we have a link to a guide to working with images on JSTOR, which includes video tutorials and even a lesson plan to borrow from, if you would like. The bottom line is that you never again hunt for your images on your computer. We're keeping them safe for you in your Workspace on JSTOR. Browsing and searching across content types. The metadata and other elements found on JSTOR journal or research report item pages are another avenue of research that can reveal what images and documents you might look for on JSTOR. Things like the bibliography, list of illustrations, and then within the metadata page, we will have related items. All of these can help you find more content. When a book chapter surfaces in your search query, use it to access the sources that scholar cites. The citations, list of illustrations, table of contents, indices, and the bibliography are all there for you to explore. Browsing collections. Browsing collections is so fun. All primary source collections on JSTOR can be browsed. Or you could just browse only the free and open content. Or you can browse just the Artstor collections. You can search collection descriptions with the keyword collection search, which I'll demonstrate. Browsing for images. All collections with images on JSTOR can be browsed. Just collections in the Artstor collections can be browsed. You can also browse by classification and by geography. So by classification, we mean like just paintings or just photography. And then geography, it's by places. Find all images related to a particular country that way by browsing geography. Okay, I'm going to go into a demo. So I've got to arrange a couple of things. First, I need to turn my camera off so that you can see the full page. And then I need to get my speaker's notes back up. And here we are on the JSTOR platform. So let me just explain. Let me go back to the slide so I can explain what we're going to do. We're going to search across different content types. We're going to search for images for a presentation. And then we're going to do browsing of a collection and of images. So hang on while I have some fun. I am currently logged in through JSTOR, but I am not logged into my personal account yet. Normally, I would just click login here, but I want to show you kind of what the registration process is if you don't have a personal account yet. So I click register, and look at the support team is there to help answer my questions. You can chat with them if you have any problem registering. I'm going to close that. If you have Google single sign-on at your institution, you can register this way or with Microsoft. Or you can enter your email address and begin to create an account. If you already have an account, or if you have an account through Artstor, just click I already have an account. And as you can see, if you've forgotten your password, you could do a password reset right here. So I'm going to log in. And you might notice once I log in, my access is not just provided by JSTOR. It now says 6 institutions, so many that it can't even list it up here at the top. And that's simply because I have a series of demonstration accounts because I work for JSTOR. And then my name would be here. It would be my name, but instead it is the whole team shares this account. So that's why you see education team at JSTOR. So I'm authenticated and I'm logged in. Now, one of the great things, if you happen to teach at more than one institution, as many of us do these days, you can be authenticated through more than one institution. That is a plus for your students, because when you use your workspace to gather content to share with students, you can share it with students at both of your institutions fairly easily. And I'll demonstrate that in a minute. So having access to through multiple institutions is a good thing for everybody. The first thing you might notice is the recommendations that show up down here. This is a new feature. These recommendations currently only are for secondary sources, so the scholarly content, but as you can see, I've been doing searches for the Ghent Altarpiece, so it's recommending some reading for me, which I think is really cool. And then up here, when I begin to type my search string, it will show me past searches that I have done. So one thing that I am going to do is re-execute this wind power search. So as I mentioned, when you're working with a bunch of primary sources, having a very simple search phrase to begin with helps you surface as much of that content as possible. So looking at my results, as you can see, the academic content is listed here. So this would be the traditional JSTOR journals, book chapters, and research reports. And then my primary source content is listed below here. I'm going to go through each of these primary sources one at a time. And I'm going to show you different ways that you can work with these. So immediately, this very first serial that comes up, I want to add that to my workspace folder. So I am going to add this one as well. So I've chosen 2 things from my list that I'm going to add. And as you can see, once I've chosen them, I have the option to cite or to save them. Before I save them, I'm going to show you this trick that I use. So I copy my search string and I click the save button. And I create a folder here in my workspace and paste my search string in there. Now, I can always rename this folder later, but it kind of helps me keep track of what I was searching and how I was going about my search when I find content in that folder later on. So now I'm going to remove the filter for serials and look at documents. And here I am on documents. As I scroll through, One thing, if you notice, it says part of, this means this is a collection. So this is a document, Wind Power in Spain. I'm not sure I'm interested in, but I am interested in looking at this collection. So I'm not going to lose track of my space here. If I click on Wind Power NYC, and you see this is the full collection description. And as you scroll down, I could search the items in this collection if I'd like. And here are the items. One thing that's handy is I can sort it. And here I've got a 2023 document. And these documents I can also save to my workspace. If you notice, I'm not even reading them. I'm just going to save them. I'm going to read them later because I'm just gathering right now. So in order to get back to where I was, I'm just hitting the back arrow. And this is taking me back to my search. Going to documents. I'm going from documents to images now. So here we are in my image thumbnails. My image thumbnails are from a variety of sources. One of the things I think I mentioned in the introduction, Panos Pictures and Magnum Photos are really great resources for us for documentary photography. The other thing is Panos Pictures has this habit of putting a whole bunch of stuff in the title field. So if you mouse over a Panos Pictures, not so much with this one, but if you mouse over a Panos Pictures image, you get a lot of information. I'm opening up that image now so you can see what it looks like in the sidebar. And as you can see, it tells me what the subject is in the sidebar. And then down here are some related items that I might be interested in. And I am interested in this, so I'm going to save it to my workspace right here. And this one, notice you can zoom way in. And I can save this as well, saving Wind Power to my workspace. So I've got two images added. I could add more if I'd like from my results. Now let's move on to books. Books can be a goldmine because it often contains collections of theses or dissertations, as you can see here. So this is where you can comb through content and find something of interest for yourself from these theses. One trick to working with these, this is a 70-page document, with these large documents, is go ahead and put it into full screen mode. And over here, use the thumbnail toggle to scan through and see what you're looking at. And as I scroll through, I begin to see some examples of charts and graphs that I might find useful. And so these dissertations and theses are something that you know, take some time to comb through, but you might find something really valuable there. So I'm going to go ahead and save that as well. So my Wind Power work has just two more sets of content types, audio and video. And I grabbed them at the same time because they both work pretty much the same way in terms of gleaning from them. You have a transcript caret here. And you can comb through the transcript and make a decision, okay, I'm going to go to this time in the recording, and you can listen from there based on the transcript to see if that's something that you want. And like all content, doesn't matter what kind of content, it all saves on my workspace. So I've gone through all of these different content types. Now I'm going to execute my Get to Altarpiece search because we're going to move on to images from a presentation before I actually give you a tour of the workspace. So I just executed my search Get to Altarpiece. And as you notice, it's giving me all these content types. If I want just images, I can execute the search by clicking on images, and that's going to give me the 320 images of the Ghent altarpiece on JSTOR. Now, I have some pretty specific things that I want. For example, I only want paintings. I don't want any other images of the Ghent altarpiece. I just want the paintings. And then I also am going to be presenting in a large lecture hall. So I want the highest resolution images possible. And I want to make my own details. So that high resolution images helps me create more details. I'm going to grab a few of these. Now, I will point out that it's very handy to have the name of the collection down here. As you spend a lot of time working with Artstor images, you might come to realize certain collections are just premier, and the Scala and the Eric Lessing collections are both great. They contract directly with the owners of the images, of the items, to do really good, clear, high resolution photography. And so I often feel super confident when I come across those kinds of images, the images from those two collections. So I'm going to copy Ghent altarpiece here again and click Save, create a folder, create Ghent, create and save. So I could go directly to the folder here with this nice little reminder that it's been saved, but I'm going to instead go to Workspace in general to give you a bit of a tour before we go into the Ghent altarpiece. And our colleagues in support are there to answer any questions as you come into your workspace. If you might need any help, they're there to answer your questions. And I'm going to minimize that now. Sometimes you'll see it just as a chat, and that just means it's after hours for us. We are manning the chat between 9 and 5 Eastern Standard Time, but other times of the day, if there is a meeting during that time or other times of the day or night, you'll see just this. Go ahead and click on it because it will go right through to our email, and then you will be in the queue to have your question answered the next time they're at their desk. So you can see my Ghent altarpiece folders here, my Wind Power folders here. These are just items from interesting collections. I'm now up to 55 items from interesting collections. And then there's other things that I've been studying and working on, or my colleagues have been studying and working on the education team. These are all in gallery view. If I move it here to list view, it's much cleaner, but because I'm working with primary sources, I find the gallery view to be most helpful. I could also do a search up here, any keyword that would help me know where certain things are. This is helpful if you have a lot of folders of similar content and you want to know every place you have an image of a certain thing. So every altarpiece image that you have, you could do a search there and it would show you the folders and the items that have altarpiece in the keywords. Now, I'm going to open up my Ghent altarpiece folder to show you some of the things that you can do. I could create a subfolder here. So say this was my folder for an entire class for a semester. I could create subfolders for every week's worth of lectures if I'd like, and I could create subfolders for the readings for every week. I could even create subfolders for study lists for the students in order to study works by themselves. I can export, present, or over here, I could rename this folder because right now it's kind of goofy. Add a description, move. I think I mentioned before, you can duplicate a folder, and by duplicating that, then I can add or delete content if I want to make like a student study folder. And then the share link, this is wonderful because this allows me to share with colleagues at more than one institution. And I just click copy link, and that would then make the link something I can share in my learning management system with my students or in an email with a colleague. Very, very handy to have that share link. Then they can see my folder. They can see changes I make to my folder. They can also copy my folder if they need to copy it for some reason. But they can't mess with my stuff, which is nice. Now, I need to reorganize this. This is the front of this altarpiece when it's all closed, so I'm moving it over. Notice as I move, I get a little coach mark here. Can dismiss that. Moving this over here. And then these, I like the position that they're in. So I can present right from up here. I'm going to choose to present from the individual item. And the reason I'm telling you about this is it's handy when you have a big folder and you stop in the middle of it, and then the next time you have a class session, you want to start in the middle, you can start right from that one item in your folder. And it's giving me a challenge. Let me try it again. It's mad at me. This is a really high resolution image, and I think I'm making it mad. So I apologize for that. Reload. There you are. Come to mama. Let's try it again. So I'm choosing present. There it is. Now, I want to show you how I can compare. So I click on more items, and I go down here, and this one is a detail of what's there. So I close it. So this one is a detail of this. If, for example, I want to get a detailed view to add to my slide deck, I can zoom in, and I can go up here, and I can choose Save Current Zoom, and then choose the folder it goes in and save. I can put that back to normal size. I can do that with this one here. I can go to these words I want. Might want to discuss that with students. Save current Zoom. Save. And now I'm going to exit. And once I refresh my page, you will see my two Zooms are right there. So I want to move them in place where I want them. And now I'm ready to export to PowerPoint. And if you export, all you need to do is click Export to PowerPoint, and it will start to export. To save time, this is one I exported earlier today because, again, these are very high resolution images. I want to show you what they look like. The first page is the title of your folder. And then you have the following pages are the items. So here is that detail, and here is that other detail. And what's lovely is the metadata for the items appears here in the speaker's notes. So you can just copy that and place it, you can move your image around and place it as I've done here. So that if you want to have that tombstone metadata there for your students, you can do that. The other thing that's really great about this is I can copy this entire slide and stick it in an existing deck that I already have. So it's a very, very quick way to work from my Workspace content. But then the other option I have is that I can always teach directly from the Workspace folder if I'd like. Now, the third thing I want to do is browse collections. So I'm going to go over here to Browse Collections. And I can choose All, Open, or just Artstor collections. So if you scroll down, you'll see that there are, thousands. So I'm going to put in a very simple keyword, migration, and see what we might have in terms of collections with the word migration in the collection description. And so here I see that there are 15 collections. One thing that is catching my eye, in the same way I did it when we were on the item page, you can see the collection it's a part of. I want to see this whole collection, all the collections from the Center for Migration Studies. So I'm going to click on that. And here is the collection description. And here are a few collections. One of the collections that I found earlier that I thought was really cool is this one, National Catholic Welfare Conference. And I can sort this by newest if I'd like. And I see we've got the 1940s and 50s. Clicking on this one, this is an old typed document that was in a 3-ring binder and with some fancy typing going on here. And if I want to look at it more closely, again, I can use the thumbnail view. And I can see things like, let me go into full screen so you can see. I can see things like who they served, what kind of interpretation and translation that they did. As you scroll down the document, you'll see that there are lists of people, where they came from, where they were met by the Catholic Charities. Kind of amazing. That this content is here. And again, it's all in a typed document, but it's hard to access if you don't process this kind of browse mentality where you're just browsing through to find cool stuff. Next thing that I want to show you is how we might browse images. So I'm going down here to images, and you can browse the images in all collections, Artstor collections, classifications, so you can browse everything that's manuscripts or everything that's fashion, or geography. In this case, I'm going to choose Canada and browsing by geography. So this is going to contain things that are in Canada, images of things in Canada, images of things created by Canadians. So both of those things would appear in these results. And if I'd like to decide I'm going to just look at sculpture, I can do that. I can also narrow by date range. So I can choose like 1750 to 1850. And so let's see what it's giving me. It's giving me sculpture items from Canada after 1750, before 1850. If I say, well, I don't want just sculpture, I can click here. And now I have other content that includes sculpture, fashion, accessories, architecture, etc. So browsing collections by images, browsing collections by collection, those are all activities that you can undertake to investigate further content you're interested in. Before I turn it over to questions, I want to show you how to get to the support pages. If you are on any page on JSTOR, you see this question mark, mouse over it, click Get Support. And then one thing I want to point out on the support page is we have all these teaching resources. We've just refreshed our research on JSTOR lesson plan and our images on JSTOR lesson plan. We also have an images on JSTOR LibGuide. And if you are teaching younger students, you may want the JSTOR for Secondary School LibGuide. All of these are available to you from that link, this link, from anywhere on JSTOR. And then turning to our handout, this is the handout we provided for you that I'm sure Kelsey is putting in the chat again now. And you can see blog posts about these recent collections or recently added to collections. Also, our Reveal Digital collection. If you're not a part of Reveal Digital, learn more about it. And our JSTOR Daily, which to me is such an amazing resource for anybody. Here is where you can see past recordings of webinars, or you can go directly to YouTube to see our webinars and all our tutorial videos. So I hope you've enjoyed this presentation, and I look forward to your questions. So let me turn my camera on and invite Kelsey to do the same.
Hi, Dana. Thanks for that. That
Hi.
was so wonderful.
I just have so much fun with the primary sources. I didn't mean to be
I
all
know.
goofy.
No, it was great. Okay, so we are going to shift into the Q&A section. So we're going to address your questions. Please feel free to continue answering questions as you think of them. We will be watching the Q&A field, and again, we have friends behind the scenes helping answer questions. One more reminder, if you are leaving the webinar at this point, a brief 3-question survey will pop up on your screen. And as we mentioned earlier, your specific comments are really helpful for us in determining the content we cover in future webinars. So please feel free to enter as much detail as you can when responding to questions. If there are questions we can't get to today or that we want to highlight, we will be adding a question and answers section next week in the handout. So, and again, if you're missing that handout link or forget about it after this, we will link to that in the follow-up email as well. And then again, you can reach out. You can always reach out to support@jstor.org with any questions you have that we cannot address in the time remaining. So with that, Dana, I've got some great questions for you lined up. One thing that I'm really excited about as a question, can you share with us, do you have any favorite resources on JSTOR to teach with?
One of the resources that is JSTOR adjacent is JSTOR Daily, which we have linked here in the handout. And what I love about the daily, you can sign up for their newsletter, by the way, which is great because it gives you sort of a weekly rundown. Like this morning, there was a JSTOR Daily article. I think I saved it. Did I put it up here? The enduring value of student newspapers. And so this is really the angle of this article is on using student newspapers as a pedagogical tool. So JSTOR Daily articles are written in common English, not in academic jargon. They cite their sources, which is great for modeling for students, and they use sources within JSTOR. All the JSTOR Daily content cited is open to the public, so anybody can have access to JSTOR Daily. You don't have to be at an institution with JSTOR. So it's my favorite because it gives me all sorts of great ideas for teaching.
I love JSTOR Daily. It's always highlighting like the most incredible collections. What was that historical clown archive, like circus performer archive that we found the other day? Anyway, there's just endless amazing things on there. Okay, another question we have, and this is actually has come up a couple of times. Questions about the geography filter. So is the geography based on the location where the item was manufactured or based on the location of the collection?
If the location where the item was manufactured is in the metadata, it will show up in geography. So oftentimes we have objects like typewriters that were designed by a designer who may be from one place and manufactured by a company that may be somewhere else. So it would show up in both those places if both of those places are cataloged by geography. Okay. So it has to do with the metadata.
Okay. Thank you. Here's another question. So the common question for us about images. Where does one find the rights statement for image items?
Okay, let's open this Chief's chest from the, so if you scroll down for sources about this collection, and then beneath that you will find terms and copyright. So remember that the items on JSTOR aren't owned by JSTOR. They're owned by the contributing institutions. And so what's important is that you recognize that we're not the rights holders. The rights holders are those institutions that contribute to the that contribute the image. And so in this case, you would contact the Museum of Fine Arts Boston to get rights.
Excellent. Thank you.
It's very, I'm sorry, I'm just zooming.
No, great. Okay. Let me grab another question. If I leave my institution and I have something in my workspace, can I still access that item?
Yeah, you can. Now, if, and I think we were discussing this the other day, if you leave your institution and and you can't use that email address anymore, that's fine. Contact support at JSTOR.org and they will reconnect you with your workspace folder, your personal account through a new email address. You can also proactively go to My Account and under your profile, I think you can edit yes. Can you edit this one? It looks like I don't want to mess with our profile, but I think you can edit it there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Support definitely can handle it. They're great at that.
Support can do it, but I think you do have some potential to make some changes yourself. And I will let our support colleagues that are behind the scenes verify that for us.
Yeah, and that's great to highlight that new landing page too for the account. Yeah. So, and just kind of like going back over that same question, because we get a lot of questions about that access. So like, there's a question about if you leave your institution. So if you graduate, you will still have access to JSTOR for 365 days from your last login, even if your institutional access ends, unless something changes on the institutional side. But from our side, you have 365 days of access.
Right.
Just kind of reiterating that in response to another question. Are you able, this is a workspace question, are you able to add uploaded items to multiple folders?
You can, but not everyone has uploaded items. Uploaded items is a beta resource. And so our colleague that just is an amazing orchid grower can add this item to an existing folder. We'll just go ahead and add it to the Ghent Altarpiece folder. And then I can click on it again and add it to my wind power folder. Okay. So it's going to exist in both places. So here's my wind power folder. And you'll see it's in both places.
Awesome.
And that's true of anything. I can take any of these. I can take this one as well. And I could add it to multiple other folders.
Okay. Another question for us. Is it possible to filter a search according to the Creative Commons license?
No.
But we have our open.
Help me.
No, if you can show the search for open access.
Oh. I just type open access?
Oh, it's a different page. Sorry. Give me one second.
I'm going to need someone to give me that link.
No. Yeah, the link.
I generally go to Browse Collections and choose Open.
Yeah.
That way. Yeah. Did you send me the link?
One that I was thinking of is, give me one second. Open and free, I'll put it actually in the chat for us, is the about.jstor.org, which is open and free
this
content.
one, yeah.
And Artstor, of course, has open access collections.
Yes.
So it's not filtering just for Creative Commons, but it's filtering for like if you've added that tag in.
Yeah, Kelsey, why don't we go ahead and put a link to this in the handout later on today?
We will do that.
Um,
Yeah.
I generally like to search collections open. If I'm not looking for secondary source content, if I'm just
Hmm.
looking for primary source content, I like to choose. It's right there on the platform. But let's go ahead and put that link in for
Yeah.
people interested in using that search page, because that searches both primary and secondary source content.
Yeah, that's great. Um, okay, shifting gears again. This is a question about the item page. Does the related text box show me, or the recommended related box show me images for both images and text? So like if I'm reading an article, will I get recommended images?
So in many cases, let me see if it's going to work in this case. So here I'm in an article, I've got recommended text, and then wait for it. Wait for it. No, not in this one. In many cases, you will find both text and images. You'll find it more with images. So I don't mean to give people whiplash moving around the platform so fast, but let me grab this one. And here are related images. And it's not bringing up related text, but it does periodically. I think it has to do with how often those things are searched, and that algorithm picks up on that. Does that make sense? You know much more back-end stuff than I do.
No, I think that's right. That sounds right. Um, yeah, great. We've got another question. Um, and I love this question. We get this sometimes. Can we talk about the difference between primary and secondary sources? Do you want to take this one or do you want me to?
You can go ahead and take it.
Okay. Um, so our if you are on a search on JSTOR, this is perfect. Thank you, Dana. You'll see that we have in the refine results sidebar something called academic content, and then we also have primary source content. And our academic content is composed of journals, book chapters, and research reports. And those are going to be like scholarly sources. They are often peer-reviewed. Research reports are kind of like a different beast, but come from experts in their field. But they are, once that removed, they're critically engaging with the primary source record generally. And then primary sources are on JSTOR, they are a wide variety of original materials that are contributed by libraries, museums, archives, and other cultural institutions. And so when you see primary sources on JSTOR, the content comes, it comes from a variety of categories and from a variety of places, but generally it's like the type of content that we're talking about when we say, again, images or photographs or oral histories. It's like a first person account. So that's why we say like primary or secondary sources.
And and sometimes they might not meet sort of the rigid, the way people rigidly define primary sources, but these are sources that could be useful to scholars, that sometimes come from very small collections or collections that a scholar would not even think to know about. And so it's a service to the scholarly community to have these kind of documents and serials and, books that may or may not be readily available around the world like JSTOR is. And so sometimes it might not be the exact, like sometimes people say, well, an image isn't a primary source because it's an image of something else. And well, we're going to put it here because this can be useful to you. So
yeah, and I think you get into kind of the fuzziness of these categories sometimes. And I think, so the kind of follow-up question here is, does that mean that a secondary source is secondary sources are the same as academic content, and academic content is like a type of secondary source. So again, we're saying like, and then we're breaking it down further by journals or book chapters. But yeah, we have to use the word secondary source to differentiate from primary sources in that way.
Yes.
And well, that's a great question for us to end on, given that kind of wraps up, encapsulates the webinar that we did today. I think that's all the time that we have. Thanks so much, Dana. This has been so fun. I love learning about images with you and primary sources.
Thanks everyone for coming. And there will be a recording. You'll get it in an email follow-up, and it will also be a link to the handout. And thanks, Kelsey, for creating such a great handout for us.
Definitely.
See you all later.